Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Farm to Future Careers in Digital Agriculture. We're so happy to see you today. No matter where you're located, we're really, really happy you joined us today. And I'll just give us one more minute for everyone to, enter this webinar. But till then, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we're on. Pallet Skills is located on the traditional land of Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississauga of the Credit, and we're extremely grateful to be living and working on this land. So before we move forward, I just wanted to talk about the objective of today's webinar. Of course, it's about discussing careers and digital agriculture, but this specific webinar is to raise awareness about the careers in the ever-evolving AgTech sector of Canada. With AI and automation having swept sectors, the AgTech sector too is growing in different ways. And this webinar is really to showcase the opportunities that lie within the digital ag sector for job seekers. It's to help job seekers understand the sector and understand how they can utilize their skills and transition into the industry. So it's one of the ways that Palette Skills, which is the organization that I work for, is showcasing how the high growth sectors in Canada are growing, AgTech being one of them. And it's how we want to equip job seekers to understand better how they can navigate the landscape in today's economy and how they can really understand if their skills and their passions lie in the AgTech sector and how they can move into it. So a little bit about myself and the Palette Skills. I'm Pallavi. I work for an organization called Palette Skills. We execute an initiative called Upskill Canada, in which we have a lot of programs that help job seekers upskill into high growth sectors, AgTech being one of the high growth sectors. So after this webinar, feel free to visit our website, paletteskills.org. And on that website, you'll be able to see all the upskilling programs that we offer within AgTech. So another thing that I should mention is that this session is going to be recorded, for insights, for sharing with you after, for sharing, gathering the Q&A question and answers that will be discussed in the session today, so that we know how to better support job seekers moving forward within these sectors. Moving on to the next part of the webinar, where I'm gonna, pass it on to David Yee, who's the moderator for today. I'll just give some highlights of the agenda. So the webinar is going to flow like this. I'm going to give it to David Yee. He's the moderator. He will introduce himself and the panelists who are going to be in the panel discussion today. Then we'll have a panel discussion of employers within the AgTech sector to share, their experiences within the AgTech sector, how the AgTech sector is growing, and what opportunities are available within the sector for job seekers. Then we're going to move on to audience Q&A. So for the Q&A, you can feel free to, use the Zoom Q&A feature to ask your questions, and also feel free to upvote the questions that you really, really want answered by the panelists to show what you prefer and what should get answered first. And then after the Q&A, it'll come back to me for closing, and I'll share some next steps after the webinar for everyone to, follow if they want to, and about the post-event emails and the website that you can go to access all the resources and information on the upskilling programs that we have. So without further ado, I'd like to give it to David Yee, who is one of the instructors of the Palette Skills programs of AgTech that we host. And yeah, David, take it away.
Thank you very much, Pallavi. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for coming to our panel here. Thank you to Upskill Canada and Palette Skills for arranging this. I want to introduce you to a fabulous curated panel the program has put together. Megan Lockhart, if you can put up your hand, Megan, just to show everybody. Damon Johnson, if you can put up your hand. Steph Saad, if you put up your hand. And then last but not least, Mathieu Bilodeau, if you can put up your hand. What I would like to do is I would like to introduce myself and the panel in our opening questions. So good morning again. My name is David Yee. I'm currently the instructor in this fabulous program at Palette Skills called Digital Ag. I'm also the executive in residence at the University of Saskatchewan for the Colleges of Engineering and Agriculture. Our family farms 3,200 acres on the western border of Saskatchewan. And my involvement in ag is in the areas of ag machinery, crop production, and now also entrepreneurship with ag tech startups. I would like to open this up now to Megan, if you can briefly introduce yourself.
Sounds good. Sorry, my internet's being a little sketchy, so if it freezes, I apologize. Hey everyone, I'm Megan. I work for the Canadian Agricultural Human Resource Council. I manage our Growing Opportunities Student Work Placement Program through our AgriTalent program. So my role really focuses on supporting the development of connections between post-secondary students, employers, agriculture employers, obviously, and post-secondary institution, as well as contributing towards preparing a job-ready workforce for the Canadian agriculture industry. Thanks for having me.
Damon, how about you?
Good morning, Damon Johnson here from Yorkton, Saskatchewan. I am the Executive Vice President at Global Ag Risk Solutions, and then our InsurTech incubator called Parametrics Ag. So, day in and day out, our focus on that specifically is within the Canadian crop insurance and agricultural risk management industries, and really driving innovation through through those two specific sectors. In addition, as I do love agriculture and all things agriculture, I'm an advisor, strategic advisor to 6 agriculture startups in Canada. And then in my abundance of spare time, I also am involved in my family's 7,000-acre grain farm here in East Central Saskatchewan, where we grow canola, barley, oats, peas, and I have a significant role out there in an operational and strategic capacity. So nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. What about you, Steph?
My name is Steph. I'm talking based in Montreal, Quebec. I'm an entrepreneur, started several businesses, and my relationship to AgTech is I'm the co-founder of No Eco Farm. We are a turnkey project or solution provider in the indoor farming, controlled environment agriculture, and we work only on aeroponics. And our current projects are based in Ontario, Oshawa. In Quebec, we work with the Cree First Nation of Wassawanipi up north and in the Middle East. And my focus, actually, the way that I got connected to upskills is like we got funded on upskilling program that we worked it out with Access Employment and Humber in the AgTech industry in the indoor vertical farming. So thank you for having me, and pleasure to share my experience with you all. Thank you.
Thank you for joining our panel, Steph. And last but not least, Metu.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Dodo. I work at Dalhousie University, the Faculty of Agriculture. I am a part of a research team that focuses mainly on precision agriculture. My main background is more academic and research oriented, but everything that I do is connected to like practical application in the field. A big part of my work involves using drones and remote sensing technologies and also satellite imagery, we're essentially trying to help the farmers make better decisions in their field. For example, recently we used drone to map crop health and identify areas that are too wet in the field or areas that are too dry, and also measure like how the plants grow throughout the season. And the idea with all of that is to turn all that imagery that we're collecting into information that could actually be helpful for farmers so they could make better decisions and manage their field more efficiency. But very happy to be here, and thanks for having me, Dave.
Thank you. What a great panel that we put together. We like to get right into the questions so they can share a lot of their expertise and their knowledge. So our first question is, and I'm pushing this forward to Megan, Matthew, and Damon. What trends are shaping this ag sector's future right now? How do you see this impacting labor needs and careers within the sector? Megan, can you open us up with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for my role at CARC, managing the Growing Opportunities SWIP program, I see firsthand how, the agriculture industry is evolving and how that's really reshaping the workforce and the opportunities within it. Firstly, we can touch on technology and digital innovation. So robotics and AI and precision agriculture, it's totally redefining how food is produced. Farms and agribusinesses are now we need people with skills in data analysis, automation, and digital systems, which is really opening the door to students from computer science, engineering, environmental programs, not just traditional agriculture programs. Canada's farms are increasingly becoming data-driven enterprises, so digital tools are changing how farms operate. So how does that impact labor and careers? Upskilling, we need to upskill our workers. They need the digital and technical literacy to enhance productivity. And, that means new roles are emerging, including farm data analysts again, and robotics, maintenance. These roles are going to grow in demand. So it is critical that students and job seekers are aware of these emerging roles available within the industry and just understand that they don't need to have an ag background to be a candidate. And those that are already in agriculture, they have the opportunity to upskill and stay in the loop with such an evolving industry. So at CARC, we've partnered with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and we are delivering the Seeding Digital Skills program, which is an example because it's a free 12-week online training designed to help agriculture and food businesses adopt digital tools to improve how they work. And, it's really about future-proofing the workforce and giving employees and the skills and the confidence to adapt and help agribusinesses stay competitive in such an increasingly digital world. Um, you know, uh, and that's really the bigger picture here. As we build digital capacity in the sector, we're not just improving efficiency. We're really trying to create new kinds of jobs and career pathways and open doors for people to see agriculture as more of an innovative and future-focused industry. And another one I can touch on too is, workforce renewal and transition and demographics. We've seen such a big labor gap in the agriculture sector, and it's driven by an aging workforce and insufficient youth entry, which is obviously posing some challenges to the sector. And it's not a numbers issue. It's really like a systemic challenge affecting productivity, innovation, and national food resilience. So really having that tech fluent workforce is the key here. It's important to attract and retain the youth and job seekers through education and career pathways and modernized trainings like seeding digital skills, as well as our SWIP program. It's really bridging immediate shortages with building long-term workforce pipelines.
Well, thank you, Megan. Matu, from your perspective inside the institution and research, what do you see in terms of the sector's future and how that's impacting labor and labor needs?
Yeah, so I think that Megan touched on a couple of very interesting points. I think that agriculture in general is changing really fast right now, and we're seeing a big shift towards technology that are driven like by farming. So like things like I'm thinking like stuff like automation or drones or sensor or AI that are used. So there's a couple of trends that I'm seeing. The main one, obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I work with drones, but I think that drone is one of the biggest trend right now. They're becoming cheaper than ever before. They're safer and they're easier to fly, which means that more farmer can start using them. But when it comes to drone, I think the real challenge is it's not really what you do with the data. It's not to collect the data, it's what you do afterwards with the data. And that's really the difficult thing. Like turning just the aerial photos that are collected into useful or helpful map is really the big challenge. And Megan talked a little bit about that too. I think another big trend is AI. So AI and automation that I think are also transforming the sector. We're already seeing autonomous tractors. We're starting to see smart sprayers and also software that start to use machine learning to, like, for example, detect disease or predict yield. So that's another big trend here that I'm seeing.
Damon, why don't you share your perspective as a person who actually is in industry, but more importantly in farming, and how all of this future and the impacted labor needs is where the rubber hits the road. And I think you work a lot in that space, so we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Love what you guys said already. And I would just add in terms of some of the trends that we're seeing is that what I would just say what ag tech was even 6 years ago isn't what it is today, and things were emerging. I think we learned a lot through some of the early real uprise in agriculture technology and what that actually meant. And what we're seeing now is a couple of things, this more specialized boutique firms building really specific really neat technologies that suit industry, supply chain mechanics, producers, their advisors, whomever it might be. And then as well as we're seeing firms that generally weren't kind of largely adopted or backed by agriculture or technologies like ours, where we're in a traditional sense an insurance company and a risk management advisory company, largely isn't known to be innovators because you live in the law of historical averages, and it kind of always brings forth what the perceived truth is. And we've identified a few years ago where the adoption as data becomes more available, more ubiquitous, we're using remote sense sources of satellite data, imagery data, weather data, soils data to build and recreate new underwriting models. And that's my example of the trends that we're seeing, is that the people disrupting the space aren't traditionally the ones believed to be doing so. So those AI-driven decision systems are becoming really, really important. Our world seems to be run by AI now, and ag tech is starting to build, adopt, and implement those things. So in our world, one of my biggest projects on the go right now is working with digital twinning and predictive analytics. And Matthew, you mentioned it, where we're able to build and develop AI that we can see into the future and help and it's to the benefit of everybody in the industry, where you can, in our world, see and predict risks earlier and help offset them and hedge those risks. So really interesting space. And so that's what day in and day out I do here. And maybe just another neat one, and it comes up a lot, especially within the trend of sustainability, but climate and carbon intelligence is really, really becoming really important from as we have global mandates for managing ESG and sustainability and carbon scoring, or wherever you fit within the mechanics of what that means, is that's really starting to evolve. And it's right from the farm producer at the farm gate all the way to people managing, capital and global capital markets are going to require this information. And that's when it's really still figuring itself out, because the goalposts are kind of moving. But as that solidifies and becomes more substantial, that carbon intelligence world is really going to be really important for everybody.
Damon, I'd like to stay with you right now. I think we need to unpack some things. You dropped some really, really interesting terms in regards to data analytics, AI itself, sustainability. Like, these are really, really interesting subsector contexts from your position inside of Western Canada. So right there from Yorkton, Saskatchewan, dryland broadacre farming, how do some of these larger terms translate into an actual role or jobs? What are you actually seeing as stuff that's now becoming in demand, the job roles, the job titles?
Sure. Yeah. So and I'm lucky because I get to live and speak on behalf of kind of the three major sectors. So there's the development of the technologies, there's the implementation and adoption of the technology, and then there's the usage for the farmer. And one doesn't work without the other. From a development standpoint, like I said, within our team, we started off, I was by myself and kind of just starting to proof of concept, what we're now working on. So, really focused on like software engineering and data science. And my first two hires that came out of Pallet filled those roles. And as we've evolved, and this has really continued to, bring life to it, we've, since a lot of data analysts, but very specifically machine learning, engineers, geospatial data analysts. So we're taking, that machine learning concepts that Matthew's talked about and, starting to create our AI models, but it takes really high level of competency and aptitude with, feature selection, machine learning, model deployment, and application deployment with my software people do. So really, I'm hiring, I've been involved in the ag tech industry since 2018, and I'm hiring for roles now that kind of weren't a priority. It didn't exist because we were so focused on like user interfaces and less about data procurement and data strategy. Again, like I said, the carbon and sustainability analysts and working, specifically with some of those carbon scoring models and those pieces are really starting to emerge, and we're seeing a big uptick in those. And, internally, we don't currently have that. I'm kind of fulfilling that role by myself. However, that's one of those that firms are going to start to adopt this, like in-house professionalism with that, just because it's going to become such a neat one. So as these technologies are developed and we're building it's not just the information, it's the data, it's the the platform, the application is what really anybody cares about, in a sense, from a usership standpoint, is that taking that to the farm and the adoption of those technologies by the user, whether it's a farmer, whether it's an agriculture retail, whether it's a machinery dealership. Part of the thing that's worked against AgTech, kind of historically, is that it gets to the farm and maybe it doesn't quite work the way it's supposed to, and there hasn't been a lot of support in terms of like adoption, retention, and working through some of the bugs, and we all do that. So that's a key piece, is that those precision ag technologists is going to become a really significant role. And those are fun roles that, I've worked with those in the past, where your experience and background, it needs to be very well developed, because on any given day, you're working with customers, you're working with people, you're working with technologies. Sometimes you're working in remote rural areas where connectivity is not great, and it's, they're fun and they're challenging. And then it's those people that are working with the farmers directly on a customer support and maintenance, because as we develop the technologies and we put them out to the farm and they're deployed and we want them to stay there and be sticky, those face-to-face customer support, product support people are really crucial. So we're seeing kind of a real uptick in firms requiring I need people in all three, because to take product from concept to commercialization and have it stay there, you need everybody. And that's where those trends are really happening. And like I said, most importantly, is that it's happening with firms that traditionally, it's more been like agronomics and operational aspects of agriculture production, where we're starting to see it in banking and finance and in carbon management and things that traditionally haven't been anchored to like an agriculture technology solution.
Thanks, David. Matthew, we got a Western Canada perspective, but you're talking to us out of Quebec. What is your perspective in terms of what you're seeing as in-demand roles and innovative roles? And you mentioned an area that you focus in on, some drones. So can you share something on your perspective here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I just want to build quickly on what Damon said, because I think he brought some very interesting point. I think that often, whenever we think about of agriculture, we often picture like a tractor or a field. But I think that today, a lot of the innovations are happening at almost like the intersection of like agriculture, technology, and data science all at the same time. And many of the new roles that we're seeing did not even exist a few years ago. But David, to answer your question about kind of maybe the drone perspective, I think that drone operators and remote sensing specialists, for example, are kind of a big upcoming jobs. So these would be the people that would plan the flight missions, they could conduct the drone operation, they could process the images that they collect, and they can create maps that they would share with the farmers. And it's, I've kind of touched base on that earlier too, but it's not just about flying the drone, it's about like understanding the crops and the weather and the soil, and all of that require expertise, right? And so I think we'll see more demand for people that can collect and interpret the drone data, similar to how we saw the rise of crop specialists in the past couple of years, which was something that didn't really exist in the past.
So staying with you, Matthew, and the fact that you get to see a lot of students and a lot of people acquiring pedagogy, what type of transferable skills are valuable for people entering ag tech from other industries or maybe even other disciplines that you have seen?
Yeah, so I think one of the great thing about ag tech in general is that it welcomes people from all kinds of background. You don't necessarily need to have grown up on a farm or studied agriculture to be part of the sector, in my opinion. In fact, I'd say many of the most innovative people that we have that are currently working in our field, in our research group, they have backgrounds like computer science or engineering or geography. So they're not like necessarily born farmers. I do think there's a couple of like transferable skills. And the first one that comes to mind would be like if you've worked with data like coding software systems, I think those are skills that are incredibly valuable because we've touched base on that. We discussed already, but I think agriculture is more and more data driven. So being able to analyze data or automate workflow is really a big asset. So, for example, again, in our research group, we have people with experience with Python programming. We have other people with AI system experience, geographic information, and all of which it helped us to process image and build model that could support the farmers.
Megan, I don't think a lot of people know, but your organization does a significant amount of work in trends for HR inside of ag, and also you guys do a lot of research. What do you see from your position, your perspective on
Yeah.
trends?
Yeah, absolutely. So a large part of my role is to really, spread awareness and change the perception that post-secondary students may have about the agriculture sector, going to career fairs and industry nights, just make them or, spread awareness that agriculture really is a future forward industry. What's exciting is that the industry really does thrive on these transferable skills, and really bringing that fresh thinking to longstanding challenges. And like Matthew said, data literacy and analytical thinking, just really being able to, understand the information from sensors, drones, farm management systems, and to really make smarter decisions. Um, the digital and technical skills and just being comfortable with the software and automation. So, these come from fields like engineering, IT, and environmental sciences. Like beyond the technical side as well, we have problem solving and systems thinkings as well, because agriculture really is such a complex industry. We're connecting climate, supply chain, and technology. So, people who are able to really, see those connections are in high demand. More on the human skills as well. We have communication, collaboration, project management. As farms and agribusinesses integrate more technology, they need people who can really bridge that gap. What I always tell students is you can be in business, you can be in tech, you can be in marketing and science. Your skills are valuable. Ag tech is really one of those rare spaces where your existing strengths can make an impact. And you can continue to grow alongside an industry that, is evolving.
Thank you. For all the panelists, we have a bunch of people who are gathered here for this webinar who are very, very curious about the opportunity and what their future would look like if they upskill into the digital ag space. Also, an understanding of what it looks like in relation to the Upskill Canada and the Pallet Skills Digital Ag program. So I want to open it up to the panel right now. And just in terms of stories, do you have stories associated with Pallet Skills alumni and how they fit into your organization, or seeing how they've applied themselves to the sector? So open up to the panel.
I'll love to jump on that one, David, if you don't mind. So it's and I'm always happy to talk about this one just because my experience with Pallet has been so positive. And what I mean by that is, and I mentioned before a little bit, we started down this InsurTech incubation type of concept in 2021, I suppose it was, and it was really just myself working with some external vendors and different things. And as we kind of got closer to wanting to productize and commercialize, we wanted to bring some of that specialty in-house with software engineering and data science. And like I said, my first two hires for those two positions were out of the Pallet Skills program. And I believe it was the first cohort, if I'm not mistaken. So Ruhid and Eric came to work on my team. And, from that day, we just kind of took off on a rocket ship, to be really honest. Where, again, these are two individuals that didn't come from the agriculture space. They didn't come from agriculture technology. They had competency and aptitude, very specifically within software engineering, development, data science, and analytics. So where, I always say, hire for fit and attitude, and train on the technical side. And so that was really it. And, the experience was so good and the learning was so good that, bringing them in, and I'll talk about farming all day. That's my favorite thing to do. So, I got to teach them and onboard them and develop them within the space. And as they did that, they got more, to that point, over half of my team, that as we've grown and grown and grown, have come out of Pallet Skills. And I always tell the story of, as I'm hiring or I'm looking to hire, the first phone call or email that I make is into Pallet Skills. And it's kind of in my backyard too. I can go to the university and see David in our shared workspace and kind of interact and be involved. And I've remained highly involved in Pallet Skills as kind of a mentor and different things as well too. So like I said, when I'm hiring, I'm not necessarily going to Indeed or Glassdoor or more common job posting sites. I want to go directly to, in this case, Pallet, because people are going in with a high level of specialization with their expertise, and they're learning about applicable, applied ways that can be used within the agriculture technology space. And at the end of that, it's up to me to bridge that gap to say, this is the geospatial analytics or machine learning role or data science role that we need to fill within what we're looking to build within our roadmap. And it's selfishly for myself, I'm wondering why. I would encourage more employers to get more involved in that way, because it's incredibly efficient. We're all really, really busy people. If I can go straight to a source like Pallet and be able to review, meet with, engage job ready, industry ready people and hit the ground running, it's a great thing for everybody. So those are some of my points. But yeah, it's like I said, Pallet has been an incredible contributor, for a small tech startup, and really getting to where we've gotten today, in 4 short years, just because access to job ready, industry ready people it's been phenomenal. So again, selfishly, I don't want to, open it up to everybody else, because I love having the access, but man, it's a great way to do it.
Is there any of the other panelists who have something to contribute in terms of story? Steph?
Well, I think one of the best success stories that we have is our project in Osho. Actually, is like we worked with Access Employment on our hiring, and we ended up hiring a Ukrainian lady, actually, who landed Canada not long time ago. And I personally was completely astonished by the level of expertise that she had. Surprisingly, she was able to transfer her knowledge and expertise in the pharmaceutical field into our controlled environment agriculture field, and this helped us to build our standard operating SOPs, procedures very quickly, to ramp up very quickly. And we're able, like, we are not at the pharmaceutical industry, but at the end of the day, we work mainly on AgTech in food industry. But I think this was one of the best examples, because we are lacking expertise in the local market. It's a challenge that everybody knows. It's not a secret. That's why probably we are here today. But I was amazed by, to conclude that part, how this person was able to transfer her skills into our domain and show us what she can do in terms of conformity, because we are talking about standardization. When we are talking about AgTech, also we are talking about standards. Especially we are in Canada, we are known for being a highly standardized country across all industries. So I think that was a very unique added value that I'm very proud of having as a success story.
Thank you. And you know what I want to just sort of remind everybody in this webinar is that with Steph, we've got a two-time startup founder. And also, Steph, will we get this right? You're also a lecturer at Humber Polytechnique, correct?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Great.
Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Megan, how are companies adapting hiring practices to meet emerging skill needs? We've heard a little story from Steph with somebody that he had found through a program. What are you seeing inside your organization?
Yeah, I would say, what we've seen is employers are now hiring for potential, not just experience. They're placing more value on those transferable skills that we were just talking about, and things like problem solving and data literacy and adaptability. The technical training can come later. We have these upskilling programs, which is great. And this opens the doors for people coming in from other industries and academic backgrounds who bring those fresh perspectives into agriculture. And we have CARC has our Growing Opportunities program as well. So through programs like this, we're seeing businesses partner with post-secondary schools to bring students in early, expose them to real projects, and really build that skills pipeline before graduation. So, it's kind of a win-win for all there. And beyond recruitment, companies are, investing more time into those upskilling programs and, upskilling that current workforce. We have the Seeding Digital Skills program, and that really ensures that their teams can keep the pace with the new technology and digital tools. Like we've said before, agriculture is evolving, and the mindset is really shifting from just, filling positions as fast as we can to really building those talent pipelines, and, hiring those learners who can grow with the industry. And as the industry continues to evolve. So it's a really great change that we're seeing there.
That's great. That's great. Steph, you gave us a really, really great example of a hire that you put with somebody from Ukraine. Steph, if you were to wave your magic wand, what would you ask of upskilling and training programs like Upskill Canada and Palette to do in partnering with you to address labor shortages? What can these programs do for you? What would you like them to do for you? How do they make it easier for you?
I think one major action need to be done is to have dialogue and open dialogue with employers from different sectors. Because when today we are talking about AgTech, we are talking about different fields. My field is I would say very narrow compared to what the gentleman and lady here they're working on. So I think dialogue first in order to identify where the gaps are. So that's really very, very important. Now, the second thing is after having these gaps filled, like probably to bring experts and to work on these programs. But I think when I worked with Humber, I worked on the curriculum, and what I avoided to do is, this is just an example. I'm not limiting the experience to this. We avoided working on the technicalities. We wanted, I personally push for much more soft skills. And I would name something probably that sounds weird but we are talking about leadership all the time. Wherever you go, everybody wants to be a leader. Schools want to create leaders, but nobody talk about followers, and what followers can do in order to improve the performance of an institution or organization. So what I think it's also important is, and the followership, it's a new subject in the space, not enough defined, and there is not enough research on it. But what I wanted to say is we need to look beyond that, because today the challenges in the AgTech industry, I'm talking specifically again about the indoor vertical farming, the learning curve is still at the beginning. We have a lot of challenges in terms of technologies, in terms of SOPs, in terms of products. We don't know what are the recipes for the products. So what we are looking for people who can accept to play several roles, to start from the bottom top. They can work in a team at the end of the day in order to make this learning curve shorter. And this is what I'm expecting today from a partner like Upskills Canada or Pilot Canada, in order to create this kind of new understanding of how work is done. I'm trying to rephrase this in the very diplomatic way that I can do. I'm not making any negative comments, but I think there is work need to be done, and mainly on the soft skills, because technically we have problems in the technical. I totally understand that, but I think soft skills today as an employer, I think we are selecting people mainly on this, besides being good at techniques.
Damon, we know that you have had a great relationship and you continue a great relationship with Palette Skills. But if you could wave your magic wand, what would you like to see in terms of the interactions between program and industries and hiring partners, employers?
Yeah, it's much like Steph said, is that there's opportunity. And I think, the great thing, if I'm talking about the Canadian prairies where I live and work, and my experience with Palette so far, is that in addition to all of those great attributes, industry is really, really looking to get involved and start to drive grassroots movements, as are farm producers, which I am one. So you kind of put all those in a Venn diagram, and where it overlaps that's where opportunity exists to, and I always say to everybody on my team who, our products, we can't just build them in a laboratory setting and then take them to market and expect they're going to work. And so I always say, when we work together, expect that you're going to get some mud and dirt on your boots. And what I mean by that is that we're going to go to the farm, and we're going to go in the field, and we're going to go learn where the technologies we're building and developing are actually being utilized. And I think that's a key piece. And you bridge the gap with a couple of those with, sometimes they're called, experiential learning centers or opportunities, i.e. internships or co-op type of programs where, it kind of requires a little bit of initiative and risk on the participant, the student, the farmer, industry, and people within Palette, but it creates the best opportunity to become work in an immersive environment and not just kind of stop short at the textbook and the test, and you continue to become involved that way. And I think kind of further to that, and really kind of where Matthew comes from, is that academia and universities are really starting to build and develop, much like at the U of S, David, with those specific learning centers where it's bringing in academia and all the power and knowledge and experience and data from that industry, such as people like myself, farmers, participants, and it's kind of creating that incubator for R&D and workforce development. So I think, and it's exciting that those aren't just kind of ideas on a board. They're starting to kind of build and incubate and happen, and that's really exciting. But I think those are important, because it's been mentioned here several times, is that there's everybody watching the call, I'm sure, is brilliant and has just incredible background within the experience. But like Megan said, it's that those transferable knowledge into a new place where you get to apply those skills in agriculture. Like, the sky's the limit. And I would just say too, in addition to that too, I live in the Saskatchewan, the Canadian prairies, where we have snow for 7 months of the year. So sometimes it takes a bit of risk on behalf of the job seeker. You might have to go to a new area, to a rural community, and it's not just the larger centers where these exist. And that's kind of maybe some of the caveat, is that I grew up in a town of 88 people, and I still go there all the time, but that's where people are needed. And when we talk about like adoption or retention of these technologies, so if you like small town rural living and not a city of 8 million people or 2 million people or 500,000 people, that's where some of the opportunity exists, and that's a personal decision. But like I said, the universities, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Dalhousie are building these centers of excellence and development. But it also takes the participant wanting to have to go there. So it, it involves a little bit, and everybody's taking a bit of risk, but that's where the opportunity exists.
Thank you, David. Megan, if somebody approaches you from these types of programs or anybody and they're just looking to make and get a foothold into the sector, what can you share with them about some advice and maybe some pathways for exploring a career in ag?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest piece of advice would be just to keep an open mind about what agriculture looks like today. It is so much broader than what people realize, and that's what we're trying to do here today is, change the perception of agriculture. And I spend a lot of time attending career fairs and industry nights and speaking to students just about how diverse the industry has become and spreading awareness. Even when I'm talking to my friends and family about what I do for work, they're just like blown away about the opportunities. And, they're just so interested to find out that there's an industry that, that they're able to explore now that they may have not considered otherwise. It's no longer just about working on farms. There's technology and sustainability, data and innovation. And, the sector really does need people from every background. It's very diverse. And so really, when it comes to career pathways, I would say look for where your skills intersect with agriculture needs. So maybe you're great with data and that connects with precision farming, or maybe you care about the climate, that links to sustainable food systems. So whatever your field is, there's always a way to apply it here. I
It looks like we just lost Megan in here when she comes back, but I think what I want to do is I want to open this up to Steph. And Steph, sorry about that, Megan.
kind
We
of
lost you there. That's okay.
I don't
You know,
know what's
these are
with my internet today.
technology.
Sorry,
And
guys.
no, it was great. Everything was great. So I want to open this up with Steph. And Steph, from you being on both the sides of seeing students and teaching to students to actually running a startup, like what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about, hey, I want a career in ag, maybe I want a career in ag tech. Like, what do you see journeys and pathways that they should be taking? What advice would you give them?
Well, absolutely. I'm gonna go a little bit higher and talk at an entrepreneur, because what I see today is if I have one recommendation, I would tell people look for companies who work for missions. Because what we see in the market today, and I think this is going to continue for a while, we'll see ups and downs because these are new sectors. There's, some interest for the financial market to get into that. But at the end of the day, what I think is going to continue is these businesses who work for missions. We're talking about food security, for example. Earlier, we talked about sustainability, and sustainability. There is also on the skirt of the industry. We're talking about connecting solar panels. We are talking about pairing data centers. So the opportunity, as Damon said it's really huge. But I would give them on a macro level work for companies who work for real missions in order to serve the communities. That's, in my opinion, that's going to be the driver that will guarantee sustainable success for these businesses from my a personal, humble point of view in different industries. And then I think we have to be very also. I'm limiting my experience to my field. I don't want to talk about other fields. I don't have that wide experience. But in the control environment agriculture, we would like to have people who can accept really to play several roles. So my recommendation there is go and map what the skills needed for this specific industry that you're going to work on, and work on the areas where you think that you can add value. One last advice I would like really to add, and this is really business related, it's not technical related, is at the end of the day, any business, any startup, we work to make financial benefits, to leave an impact for the community, and to protect the environment. So the financial issue remains always a problem. and the questions. So whatever you work for, whatever structure you work for, whatever your role is you are playing. One of the major challenges that I've been facing as an entrepreneur in this industry and other industry is we work with people who are not very aware of that particular component, and we had difficulties working with them. So educate you a little bit yourself about profitability, how these businesses are making money, and what is the formula that makes them thriving in the industry.
Thank you. You know, we have so much questions that come into the Q&A panel, and we only have about 5 minutes left. So we're going to be very, very selective in finding those things. We thank everybody being able to send those questions. We can't get to all of them, but we're going to do our best. And if there is any requirement for people, I'm going to reach out to the panel right now. Is it acceptable for some of these webinar participants to reach out directly to you guys if they're looking for some expertise? So we have a nod or a confirmation for everybody, so that's great. But let's put this out to everybody in the panel. So this is all open to everyone right now in the panel. Are there additional resources that you recommend that we can go to and stuff that we can read more on what's emerging in technologies that's been mentioned in this session? Things like sensors, automation, remote sensing, digital twinning. There's been lots of really good keywords. Where would you suggest people go if they're doing some investigation, they're doing some market research?
Yeah, maybe I'll take this one, David. So I'll do a shameless plug to one of our precision agricultural training that we released earlier this week, which is funded by Upskills. And so it's a 4-week course that we launched, and it's essentially teaching precision agriculture to students. And we're covering like drone system, variable rate applicator, AI systems, sprayer drones, a lot of the new technology. Unfortunately, this course just started, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to deliver more courses, and participation so far has been really good. So it seems like there's a big interest, but hopefully we can run many more sessions in the future. But I think that would be a starting point.
Anyone else want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, that term, it's kind of always who you know. Build your network, go to events. There seems to be kind of, you know, pop-up events in terms of agriculture technology, pitch nights, hackathons, 24-hour startups. Go to as many of those as possible, because, you know, where, you know, you've got the ideas or skills, and even go to the extent of sign up for a 24-hour pitch and, you know, take your idea and present it in front of a group of panelists and get feedback. Those are all the soft skills that we talk about that aren't, you know, technical competency and code based, where you have to be able to like look people in the eyes and do those types of things. I think there's a broad group of people looking to take the risks. There's looking people to finance those risks, and there's looking for people to hire at those events. And I think building your network at those things, again, speaking for the Canadian prairies where I am, there seems to be one a week kind of a thing, but, you know, I'm sure in other markets as well too. It's amazing what you can learn outside of a classroom setting. As much as I love classrooms, you know, where, you know, great conversations and opportunities exist is at some of those networking events.
I can jump in here too. Hopefully I don't get frozen again. We have the Seeding Digital Skills program that we've partnered with Ontario Chamber of Commerce, funded by Upskill Canada as well. So this is a really great program. You know, it's a hands-on training program helping agri-food and food processing businesses adopt digital twin technology using Unity technology. We're running from October to December now. We have cohorts open, and been great. It's been a great course so far. CARC also has really great resources as well. And I would go off of what Damon said as well, just getting out there and, you know, creating that network for yourself. And you know, if you're a student, having a co-op or work integrated learning experience with an agriculture employer, and really just understanding how diverse and all the opportunities that are out there.
We have a question that's come in where people are looking for the panelists to maybe unpack this for them a little bit more. So it's a little bit more specific towards an actual role. And what the question would be is, what specific skills or training would be ideal for someone who's interested in getting into the agriculture, ag tech, or farm data analyst type roles? This has been mentioned as an upcoming role. Open to the panel and anybody to jump in is, what do you think that they need to put in terms of their foundation for skills and training?
Yeah, I can just because I've recently hired and promoted within exactly that. The simple answer, and I tell everybody, is that learn Python. If you don't know Python, learn Python and get really good at it. It just seems to be, everything that we do works off of that. And the second one, have a foundational experience with GIS and information systems that way. So geospatial data analytics and working with GIS systems, but also the extraction, transforming, and loading of remote sensing data, weather data, imagery data into those GIS systems. Build that competency that really tactically that kind of completes the whole cycle within that kind of ag data analyst role.
Anyone else in the panel have something in terms of that? Farm data analyst, any suggestions? I have a question here from Allison Green. I think the background behind this is, maybe I'm not traditional, and if I have this particular type of training, how do I apply it into the sector? Especially if panelists can even speak about how does it apply into the rural sector. So Allison says, she asked, are there opportunities for an American MBA student / recent grad? And so she's specific about that. We'd love to hear from panelists what they would advise her on. So Steph, you see your hands up?
I think the opportunity is there. There is no better time than now for people with this kind of background and education to step in and make a difference. I think what I see in the market, and I would love to hear from the other panelists about what I'm saying. We've seen ventures started without real I would say calculation, cost calculation, profit calculation, a lot of risk taking also. So I think somebody who has this, because the goal of an MBA is to give this panoramic vision on a business and how to start business. So you are not specialized of anything unless you focus on something. So I think there is a huge potential on that part. Probably the question is, what is the right entrance? What is the right connection? This is another question. But to answer the question specifically, I think there is a need, and I think an intervention from somebody with that level of education. And again, I didn't mention anything about expertise, because when I started this business, I have nothing to do with agriculture. It's just we designed the business from a solid point of view, how to make it thrive. So then we start learning. So this is how I start businesses.
Yeah, I love that question, because as a fellow MBA, and I'm an economist by trade, so technology and agriculture technology is actually not my background. It was just a keen interest that connecting business and finance and offsetting the risks of farming with some of those mechanisms is where the fit came for me. So if there's a keen interest, I would go towards it. And Steph's mentioned already, there's the technology and all the fun stuff, but equally as difficult within agriculture technology is running the businesses and paying the bills and raising capital and doing all those things too. So point being is, a lot of firms, and I've been through that a few times, and many are raising capital, whether it's VC capital or private equity, but a specific opportunity, and I'm seeing it a lot, is helping firms access non-dilutive capital. We all need to bootstrap our operations off the start, and there's a real business. I know, David, you've got experience in doing this, is helping people, speaking from a Canadian lens, especially, of helping people access government funding specific to the business that they're starting and provide capital for them to keep going, in a sense. A lot of times those folks, myself included, don't have the 30 hours required to sit down and write an application and all the supporting data appendices. But you're happy to pay somebody on a consultancy basis to do that. So if you're ever looking to start a fractional strategy type of consulting business, you would be very, very busy doing that.
Dwight chimes in and Dwight says, are there opportunities for mid-career ag professionals? So I think Dwight's hinting is I'm not coming out fresh with a degree with very, very specific messaging going in there. I'm kind of mid-career. What's your advice for someone like Dwight?
I can talk about this if um I would like to give an advice again, but this is from my personal experience before I start businesses. I think um I've been working in different continents for the last 25 years, and the particularity of working in the Canadian job market is we are not locked in boxes. In some cultures, we are like wherever your education is, you have to continue the rest of your life there. So people they're coming here, or some people are sometimes locked in these boxes. I think the horizons are wider than these boxes. The main advice is wherever at it doesn't matter at which stage you are. I think what is really important is how to um, make or show the skills that you have, the experiences that you have, and value this in your marketing profile. Is it a CV, LinkedIn, speech, whatever it takes? So I think this is a brilliant question, but I think the other question that I liked in the discussion today is about transferable skills, because the key is the transferable skills. Today we have YouTube, the best university in the world. You know, everything is access for free whenever you want. So we can learn. Everybody can learn. I don't think that learning today is an issue. The problem is how to apply this and how to work with other people in order like to make things move on. That's the real challenge. And sometimes people they undervalue the real value in the market. So I'm saying this in a very positive way in order to encourage the person. I don't know the person, and in order to say that there is a space. It's just probably to work on the value of your profile and the added value of your expertise.
I want to give the panelists all an opportunity to do this, but I really want to kind of highlight Matthew on this one first. If all of you can pitch on behalf of our industry in agriculture, why move from tech to ag tech? That's your best.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question. I think that Damon talked a little bit about that. I think he mentioned that his background was more in economy, and then he decided to change to agriculture. And I think personally, I think it's really satisfying. And that's to me would be the same thing. Like tech is tech, and and I think like yeah, I would say it's super satisfying. That would be the main thing. Like just see the impact that you can create on the farmers, and you can make direct impact really on their crop and their production by giving them the information, something that they haven't seen. And so that's really really satisfying to me, and that's one of the main reasons I find it interesting.
Yeah, I can follow that one up, David. Really to that point, why agriculture is so interesting, whether it's broadacre row crop farming or vertical farming or livestock farming or greenhouses, is that our responsibility solely is to feed everybody in the world. So when we all wake up, we need to have food to sustain life. And so that being a big pressure, we're also working that as things move and evolve, and we're still trying to obtain call it the social license, that we're doing so in a sustainable manner, respecting farm stewardship, environmental conditions, sustainable practices, all those types of things too. So the thing that's always exists is that farmers have been really, really great at making food and meat and vegetables and fruit for all of us to enjoy and live off of. But there is currently and will continue to accelerate this requirement for us to do it responsibly, sustainably, with environment in mind. And those are net new additions to a thing that's existed for 1,000,000 years, right? So that's the why. And it's not that other industries, mining, transportation, medicine, whatever the case may be, everybody is evolving because they can and they do. But why agriculture and why I'm so passionate about the industry is that at the end of the day, everybody needs to eat.
This is our last question, so I want to go and I want to do it in the lightning round. I want everybody in the panel to answer, and then we're going to pass this back to Palette so we don't run out of time. It seems like when we take a look at the complement of questions, and we got a lot of questions today, it's very, very impressive, and we just don't have all the opportunity to answer them. But everybody seems to be talking in terms of in these questions that I'm looking at, is that I come from a specific point of view right now. Wherever I come from my country, from my education, from my journey as a professional, I come from here. And I want to get to here, which is a digital ag job in the industry from coast to coast. It doesn't have to just be row crop stuff in Western Canada. It can be orchard work, it can be greenhouse work, it can be, you know, anything even in sort of oceans and fisheries and that, but it's something to do with the food industry. Every one of you have to answer this lightning round. I'm going to call you. What is your advice from somebody coming from wherever they are, the best advice you get to go and get yourself ready to be in this in this sector? I want to start with Megan. What would you suggest people should be doing?
I mean, I think just getting out there and that hands-on experience is so important. I think in the agriculture sector today and ag tech, a lot of the people that are in the sector today didn't start in agriculture. You know, they found themselves here, which is really important. And, you know, they built those networks, they met those people, they found those mentors, and they got to where they are today, and also using those transferable skills as well. You know, just putting yourself out there.
Matu, somebody walks right into your office at the university and says, "This is what I want to do." What are you telling them?
I would say probably try to identify your skills. What are your personal skill set? What you're able to bring, and also what are your personal interests? Because I always think that whenever you're interested in something, you're going to work way harder because you're passionate about it.
Steph, somebody pops into either you at Humber Polytechnique or they come straight into the office of your startup. What are you telling them?
Come and work with entrepreneurs. A lot of space to do and a lot of stuff. We have a lot of challenges, and you will be exposed to a wide array of challenges and opportunities. I think startups are really the best place because there is a space. There is a huge space, and like contrarily to this big corporates, you know, you will have a wide vision, and then you will pick up on the floor.
Damon, last word to you.
Yeah, all those are great. I would just say, and my son turned 18 years old today, and I'm, you know, I'll say I'm life coaching him at this point of our relationship. And but I would just say, you know, there's lots of people that want to work with you. There's lots of people that want to help, but you have to lay the first brick. And one of my favorite movie quotes is that nobody's going to give it to you. You have to take it. So put yourself out there, take a risk, and that's the only way it's going to actually happen.
If I can urge everybody who's watching this webinar, we have 4 people who distinguished panelists in here who did give us a nod, and they gave us sort of their version of thumbs up that they would accept people reaching out to them. So we apologize that we couldn't get to everybody's questions, but these people have been willing to offer some time outside of this webinar. If you're looking for a first step, please consider reaching out to these distinguished panelists. They can maybe possibly help you in terms of moving forward. So with all of that said, thank you to all of our panelists for everything you've offered to us, to the people in the webinar, the content that you've shared, the advice that you've given. I would like to pass this back to Pallavi and back to Palette.
Well, thank you so much, David, and all the panelists. This was such a great panel discussion. I think the entire, point and objective of this webinar was to increase awareness about the sector so people can understand if their passion lies in the sector, if their skills lie, if they have transferable skills that can be transitioned into the sector, and then try harder, as they're already doing. Everyone is trying hard, but like find that passion and then go for it with their skill sets. And, before I end this webinar today, I just want wanted to say and remind everyone that the Palette Skills website has all the upskilling programs in AgTech for you all to go and look at and see, if you're interested in any of these programs. And another thing that the Palette Skills website has is our Upskill Canada hub. So if you go on the Upskill Canada hub, you can see if your skills fit in with the sector. So the hub assesses your skills. You can explore the career pathways and discover training programs that can help you transition into the AgTech sector. And if not the AgTech sector, maybe another sector, another high growth sector that your skills can be transferred to. So pay attention to your follow-up email in your inbox after this webinar. It's going to have a recording of this webinar. It's going to have a link to our website so that you can go and explore the Upskill Canada programs. But with that, thank you so much to our moderator and our panelists and all the job seekers and people that attended our webinar today. We're so grateful that you came, and we learned a lot from your questions as well. So we're going to also keep that in mind and keep working towards equipping everyone for these sectors. Thank you so much.